Hi there. Continuing with essential skills, and we come to a skill that really is essential in as much as it can be life-saving, and this is first aid. Now, I like to use the analogy of combatives. In combatives, we take a very compressed curriculum, which is totally different from traditional martial arts, which has numerous techniques, long learning curve, many years for proficiency and so on. Whereas combatives, it's quick, it's highly aggressive, and it does the job of stopping or winning a violent confrontation quickly. And as Kelly McCann says, what you learn in the gym in the afternoon, you can use in the parking lot at night. And similarly with first aid, instead of all the procedures and training and skills you need to be a medical professional, you can learn a very quick course and save lives. It's pretty amazing, really. So putting that into context, I think it's something that everybody should know, and I believe it is taught in some school curriculums now. A couple of points is that the manuals, there are many out there. In the UK, the Red Cross and St John's produce a very comprehensive manual. The one I'm going to show you is this one, because it was one that we used to give out on our courses. We had a whole load of these, and it does cover the essentials quite well. If you don't learn anything else, just the ability to open an airway can save someone's life. Learning the recovery position can be very useful. The number of times we come across unconscious people in the city centre, particularly at night time, is quite staggering. And knowing the recovery position is very useful. The other thing is CPR, which generally speaking now is chest compressions. They've really done away with the rescue breathing for most parts, particularly with the infections. But I think there's a level of expectation of what you can achieve with CPR. And, you know, that generally speaking, in 99% of cases, the casualty isn't going to recover. And when you see it on the movies and they're doing compressions and going, come on, I don't know what they're expecting. The casualty to sit up and go, oh, thanks for that. That's not what's happening. What you're doing is maintaining cardiac perfusion pressure until the paramedics arrive. So it's necessary to do, but it's got to be maintained. The videos that were shown as a public service on how to do CPR and using the Staying Alive soundtrack with Vinnie Jones were very good. They were spot on, and I think they were a great learning tool for people. Now, a book is all very well, but this is a skill, and as such it should be trained in a hands-on manner. And a lot of the training courses, or the standard training courses, is rather short. It's usually conducted in a sterile classroom environment, no stress involved at all. It's not really a testing process. And I've been on numerous, you know, every time I've had to update my certification, and they're all like that, really. And I always thought, well, we should really teach it a different way, more akin to how we teach combatives. So after one of the internationals, when we extended, instead of just having the Saturday and Sunday, we went into Monday morning, because so many of the guys were still in Liverpool, and we did a special session. And one of the things we did was a high stress scenario where you had to fight the bullet man, the padded assailant, and then you were given a first aid problem. And basically it was just to put a wound dressing on a guy who had been stabbed in the leg. And it was amazing just what goes out the window. And people who are very skilled at first aid in a normal calm environment just forgot almost everything. Very, very few people could even open the dressing. They were all thumbs and so on. And today I was reading a book which I'll be reviewing about aviation and the training of pilots, and it mentioned that task loading on the flight deck, and you can become fixated on a problem and go from a normal level of arousal to being completely over aroused in a second, whereas you can't hear, speak or process. And I thought that sums it up completely. That's something we see happening in these scenarios. And we've overloaded the guy with the padded assailant, and his brain just isn't functioning in a normal way. Now that relates obviously to the real world. You know, you might be at the scene of a horrific type of accident or so on, and it may not be necessarily violence, but it can be an overwhelming situation. So it's best addressed in training. And I presented similar training in Zurich, and attempting to overload the guys. And no matter what I did, I was doing things like I was acting as the person relaying the information, and I was deliberately mangling the address. So I'd say, what's the address? And they'd say, you know, 123 such a street, and I go 321, and they were correcting me. I switched the lights out, plunged them into dark. They all had a flashlight in the kit, and they all carried on successfully. And I spoke to Simon, our man in Zurich, about it, and he said their normal first aid training is quite scenario specific, and that's why the guys could perform. So it is something to bear in mind. And finally, it brings us to kits, first aid kits. Now, some people are very into carrying equipment and kit, and some people are totally against it and really rebel at the idea. So it's up to you. It's lifestyle specific. How do you dress? What's your job and so on? I wear combats most of the time, so I've got pockets. I can carry items in those pockets, so for me it's not a problem. I've also usually got a backpack with me, and I can have items in that. You may not, but it is possible to carry some items of kit. Now, for example, this is just a little pack you can put in almost any pocket, and it's a very compact and thin Israeli wound dressing, trauma dressing, and with it there is also a credit card wrapped in duct tape, and this is useful for sucking chest wounds and so on, or for just securing bandages over wounds and so on. It's got many uses, so just that alone is something. You may want some much more comprehensive pack, and it's useful, besides having things to stop major bleeding and so on, is just to have something for minors. So wound closures and butterfly dressings, things like that, can be very, very useful. And we've had quite a few letters written in about just treating people for fairly minor things, but it helps them, because most people don't carry this kind of stuff with them. So that's it on basic first aid. Lots of books and manuals out there. A lot of them are well illustrated and well worth having if you haven't already got one. We will be doing a review on books on tactical medical procedures, much more advanced and specific, but this for now is just a few thoughts on basic first aid.